Welcome to the lunation situation. We are talking about an eclipse, which is the full moon in the sign of Libra at 5 degrees and 13 minutes. And it means that this eclipse, this lunar eclipse, starts an eclipse story, an eclipse portal on March 25th when it occurs. Eclipses always come in pairs, so we start now with a full moon, which is counterintuitive, but we end the eclipse pairing, the eclipse season, so to speak, 2 weeks later with a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So from March 25th until April 8th, which is that 2-week eclipse window, we find ourselves in extremely odd times where energy is rapidly increasing and there's a massive inflow from the cosmos. A lot of energies coming in, but also going out. So with a lunar eclipse, it is very likely that things come to an end, that, major stories close out, and things might be eclipsed out. And eclipses have the nature of Uranus, where it is sudden and surprising and quite shocking, perhaps. A lunar eclipse is similar to a full moon. If the moon is in Libra and it's a full moon, then it means automatically that the sun is opposite the moon. That's why we see the moon big, bright, shiny, because the sun is projecting its light on its the fullest. And it means that the sun is in Aries at 5 degrees as well. So full moons are always an opposition of energies. Here we're talking about Aries versus Libra, and these signs are well known for being the me and we category of astrology. So Aries, represented by the first house, is your body, is you, is your identity. It's me, right? And then the opposite side, the 7th house, Libra, is the other, the relationship, the projections and the reflections, the other, or we, where the me becomes a we, and where it's about togetherness. So with this full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, we are facing off with these Libra energies. Now, Libra, as I mentioned, is quite known for being the sign about relationships. And this can be romantic. This can also be business, clients, as it is represented by being the other, it could also be that, professional help or support is also definitely 7th house Libra. So what kind of Libra energies could we be talking about with this full moon? Well, first of all, the full moon aspect means that things are rounding up, right? Things are coming to full fruition. They are wrapping up, they're coming to an end, they're coming to a closure. Things are falling away. It is an indication that we need to move away from certain Libra concepts. And that could mean moving away from compromises, something that Libra tends to make because it seeks harmony and balance. It is programmed to do so. It is ruled by the planet Venus, which is all about relationships, love, but also money, and more so where the Libra Venus element comes in is aesthetics, beauty, art. Libra sees harmony, wants to see harmony, and it could be challenged in that, definitely during this eclipse. And it's a natural struggle, because as I have mentioned to you in other videos, astrology works in actually 6 axes, so oppositions. So when you're talking about Libra, to fully understand Libra, you need to look at the opposition, which is Aries. So even though it seeks harmony, doesn't mean that Libra always possesses that finesse, but it is definitely pushed to find the equilibrium in their life. And it's like, as I said, a natural program of a Libra to care for that. And so it does that in art. It wants symmetry, you know, it looks for that. That's beautiful. And in relationships, it looks for, you know, no conflict. And therefore is prone or programmed to look for compromises, to be that diplomat, you know, to kind of smooth things out. It's that softness, I suppose, that the Venus Libra brings. But, you know, Aries, where the sun is at, where our vitality and energy is at during this time, is all about leadership, assertion, you know, putting yourself first, prioritizing yourself. Quite the contrary of classical Libra concepts. This eclipse indicates that, you know, especially with the South Node still being in Libra, which is things we need to move away from as well, just like this eclipse. Technically speaking, in astrological terms, even though the South Node is quite far away from this moon, so we don't classically call it a conjunction. However, in eclipse terms, because of that South Node being close to the moon and the North Node being close to the sun, is what makes this an eclipse. So technically the South Node is at 16 degrees of Libra, which is 11 degrees away, but that makes this an eclipse. So that's for the people who care to know astrology and how eclipses are calculated mathematically. But of course, traditionally, you know, eclipses are very old. We can tell through nature when an eclipse is occurring as well. But it just means that the subjects related of this eclipse in Libra are related to the South Node in Libra. And as I said, those are themes you want to move away from. And these concepts that we want to move away from, these unserving or negative expressions of Libra, we have been working with since this summer, when the nodes changed into Aries and Libra. Another topic related to the South Node and this lunar eclipse is that we want to move away from seeking too much validation. You should honor your own validity, that you're right about a certain subject, that you can make a choice for yourself, and that you don't need the applause, that you don't need the approval, that you don't need to seek the balance within this, because the universe with the North Node in Aries, where the sun is at, is telling us to seek your own validation, to seek your own approval, to be the leadership, to have assertion, you know, over your own life, to set goals, to go after them, to not necessarily ask anybody's opinion or approval. And so you know, Libra can have that tendency for over validation, or, you know, seeking too much advice and caring of what other people think, of not being able to make their own choices. So those things need to move or be eclipsed out during this time. But also, you know, an over attachment perhaps to relationships, or at least in an unhealthy way. Because if you seek harmony more than truth, you know, you smooth over those arguments in a relationship, then, well, first of all, you're not being honest, but also you're not being fully you, and you're pulling your true self away for the sake of a relationship. And those things, those dynamics need to be cut out, says the universe. That's what the South Node in Libra is working with us. And now with this lunar eclipse, it's like bringing that into life, bringing that into reality. And even if you were having these habits, they're going to be pulled away in some shape or form. What also is being worked on or eclipsed out or needs to be moved away from is over contemplating. You don't need to think everything through. North Node in Aries and the Sun says, jump in, just do it. If it feels right, if it feels like you need to do something, do it. Because all that overthinking, all that going over every detail, or this outcome and then that reaction, and then it cuts away the momentum and cuts away the passion you need. You should become more of a daredevil in your life, to take more bold, courageous action. And as I said, having trouble decision making, that needs to be cut out. You need to make your own firm decisions and stand behind it. That decision-making aspect is, of course, also, I think, related to healthy relationships, which is ultimately the goal. But what we're doing here with this lunar eclipse is cleaning out the stuff that is holding us back from healthy relationships, because we've learned behaviors and patterns that did not result in healthy relationships. Where you put yourself away for the sake of someone else is not a healthy relationship at all. That's never gonna last. If somebody has to tame their shine or be less of themselves to accommodate that relationship, that's not gonna work. And I guess that's actually the theme of this lunar eclipse. No accommodation. You're not going to adjust yourself to a partner or a job, or, you know. And this is also related to the trine that this is making to Pluto. It's all about authenticity, you first, but more on that a little later. I want to go over some of these Libra themes. So again, we're not seeking opinion of others. That needs to be out of the window. And even I myself have got a reminder yesterday that my intuition is very strong and counts. I do what I want. And I should do that more. So even though I do not have high Libra placements in my chart, everybody has every sign within them, right? Because in your birth chart, you see all 12 signs, you know? Every sign is in a certain house, meaning governing some sort of area over your life, some sort of subject. You know, you could look at what the houses mean. Is it the 4th house? Is it the 10th house? Is it, you know, the 12th house? There's a house where Libra is in or ruling. And if it's ruling that house, it's even stronger. We all have that. So, but of course, here specifically, you can look at what 5 degrees of Libra is in your chart, what house that is, to see what topics you're specifically working with privately. But so, unfortunately, we are learned, especially as women, to listen to other people, to take in other people's opinions. And even though Libra is seen as a masculine sign because it's an air sign, I find it very feminine. Well, not only because it's ruled by Venus, which is, you know, the feminine aspect within ourselves, but also because of that softness with the you know, seeking harmony, seeking justice, seeking balance is very feminine to me. That's not masculine at all. And Aries is obviously more typically masculine expression, not only because it's ruled by Mars, which is the masculine aspect within everybody, but also because it's much more not caring about what other people think, and you know, that's not even in the slightest considered in the action taking and making. Now you could always, of course, argue if that's great, because maybe you should think of other people sometimes, right? But when it comes to your life and your desires, you need to make your own decisions, and you need to firmly stand behind them. When you have an instinct, which is very Aries, so that's what Libra is working with. But I feel we are evolving, so instinct can be animalistic, where you just have a hunch and, you know, in Aries terms, jump in head first without thinking about anything. Now that's too simplistic maybe as well, right? We are evolved human beings. We're stepping into the Aquarius age where intelligence is required. So now we need to also be very in tune with our intuition, which I see as a much more evolved version of instinct. You have an instinct, and the only contemplation you could or ought to make is intuition. Tap on into that intuition you have. Your intuition is linked to your higher self, your soul, to your spirit guides, to the divine, the source, whatever you want to say or believe in. But astrology confirms all of this, okay? That intuition is sort of like a higher power, and represented by Pisces in the 12th house, ruled by Neptune, which, interestingly enough, is the higher expression of Venus, which is tied to this subject because Venus rules Libra. We need to weigh our decisions on our intuition. And when our own truth knocks, we need to listen. We need to honor our own instincts coupled with intuition. And then you do. You do not care or talk it through with other people. Because we should trust that these pushes we get are valuable on its own, that they are meaningful. It doesn't matter about the other people. You know, it's me who listens and makes that choice. And I feel that's the wrong part. And that's maybe where the Libra can go wrong. Because we shouldn't listen to other people's opinions. If you have a different view, you should stand firmly upon that. I feel your instinct and intuition are very valuable. And I think the universe is telling us that we need to operate more on that level. and not so much on the Libra level where it's mental. You know, being an air sign is very much about thinking and words and rationality, logic. But I feel more and more that that's not the best way to make a decision. That's great for communicating, maybe, if I want to explain something to you or help you learn or understand something. But when it comes to decision making or leading your life, it should be more, maybe, I mean, controversial, I know, but maybe more on emotions. And I feel that Aries and water signs, you know, fire signs and water signs are very emotional. It's why, you know, the fire signs are more ruled by instinct. Which, as I said, instinct and intuition are not that far apart. It's just that one is less evolved and one is more evolved. You know, one is more animalistic, one is more on a soul level. It's just a different perspective, right? So the animal perspective is more literally on earth and like, you know, fight and flight. It's the amygdala, you know, the inner little, I guess they call it the monkey brain or something. Very old part of our brain that they even call animalistic. So the scientists. So Aries operates from that, like, you know, sudden decision making, like you're in a battlefield and, you know, you have to either run or hide or, you know, or take on the battle. But you need to make a very quick decision. There's not a lot of time to calculate things. And Libra is maybe more in that calculation position where it's like, let's see what the neighbor thinks. Let's see what my important family member thinks. Let's talk it through with this and that. And then, you know, the problem with that, and that's exactly, I think, what this full moon, lunar eclipse, and the South Node is about. The problem with that is that along the line, you do not know what your opinion is anymore because you faced so many ideas and thoughts of other people. Also, we do not want to overly regard the needs of other people, which Libra can tend to do. And that taking into consideration the need of others is, of course, a good thing, but it's just not where we're focusing on right now. What we're doing with this South Node in Libra story is clearing away what has been hurting us and what has not been in our favor. And regarding the needs of others is very important, except that it should only occur when your cup is full. And only when your cup is full. And to first be able to put yourself first. First, your needs. And of course, you never want to hurt someone, but your needs matter. And that's what we're working on. So the problem is that, you know, Libra can be very kind, and kindness is important and is a good thing, but there should be a limit to it when it is hurting you. When you're being too kind and always thinking about other people, always putting them first before you, that's not going to last very well, is it? Your fulfillment is equally as important as other people. And your needs are equally as important as other people's needs. So the Libra aspect of ourselves should train to know what it likes, to make decisions that they see fit. Even when your hands tremble or you're unable to speak it out, just try, just evolve that part of yourself where you're like, train it, I want to eat this. Well then, okay, do it. I want to go here and here today. Do it. Even if you cannot find someone else, which is what Libra would do. So you have to be more in touch with yourself, your needs, and to be very firm about it. This is your show. This is your performance. This is your story. You're the main character over your own life, not other people. So you need to live like that, from the center of your true self. That's what we're all working with because of Pluto in Aquarius, right? So the power to be yourself, the power of authenticity is what we're finding out more and more. So those lower Libra aspects of putting other people first, over contemplation, accommodation, all that needs to go. Because it's hurting who you truly are. That's not authentic. You should be able to say when you don't like something, when you don't want something. You should at least also know what you don't like. And then the second step is to express it. 5 degrees of Libra where this occurs is a Leo degree. Hence why I marinate Leo themes into it. This is your show. This is your performance. The Leo degree shows us again, it's about you, your story, your shine. To be more expressive from yourself, to be more in tune with your identity, and to be very much more unapologetic, to be fierce and very expressive, but not so much caring about other people's opinions. That needs to go. And we're not diminishing ourselves for nobody anymore. This is about self-prioritization at the highest limit. It is of core essence right now. This is, of greatest vitality. Like, we can't go on in the other way. You have to know who you are, what you want, what you bring to the table. And that's how you get the healthy relationships. Because what are your needs in a relationship? That is what you need to ask yourself as well. And also Leo is romantic, is about loving relationships as well, is about the heart. So all of this is being reworked. It's a very deep transformation of relationships, of romance, of how we relate to anybody. All of that is being reworked with this eclipse and with the South Node journeying in Libra. And we have another Libra eclipse at the latter end of this year, but that will be a solar eclipse. So we have 2 eclipses in Libra this year. The Libra eclipses are the most significant sign for this year. So the Libra within us, the need to relate is strong, but it is being reworked. The programs, behaviors, the codes that did not serve us or healthy relationships, did not bring in that, is being reworked. And I've always known and believed that it starts with you. And that's exactly what the astrology is saying. You need to embrace who you are. You need to be more radical about it. And as I said, let's look into the aspects then, because this moon, Libra moon, is trining Pluto. It means that it's also sextiling the sun in Aries. That means that this Pluto is softening the opposition of this lunation, of this eclipse. So Pluto is working with it. It's an easier transformation because of the trine. There's a flow to it. This change, this deep transformation, this reworking of these unserving codes are easily available to us. And it's a must. There's no going back. I guess there is a permanence. You know, it's permanent, something that occurs with this lunation or the themes around it. No longer are you going to put other people first. You need to stand in your own light, own authenticity. And it means you need to liberate yourself. You need to look at things from a higher perspective and embrace your own uniqueness more, much more. So it's also, well, if you're going to contemplate, you should try to do it by yourself, and you should contemplate some of these Libra themes of, well, what is beauty then? What is a relationship to me then? What is love for me? How does a healthy relationship look for me? What is important for me? What are my values? What do I have to bring? Why am I special? And I need to own that. What elements could I be more of a leadership in my life? How could this serve humanity, everybody, and have more equalness, or should we say balance in Libra terms, to the masculine and feminine roles, or the masculine and feminine energies? You know, a more of a balance, in other words, in receiving and giving. There needs to be a harmony between those two, and that's why the lower expressions of Libra are not bringing us healthy relationships. We need to learn to receive, not only give. We need to be firm about parts of ourselves and, you know, show others how you care to be treated. I think we're stepping into much more evolved relationships, and that this cosmic intervention is really stepping us up in this game. And the prediction to me would be that from now on, relationships will look different. And if it's not authentic, if people are not themselves in it, they're holding things back, not being fully themselves, not owning all parts of themselves, the dark, the light, the trauma, the happiness, you know, bring their full color into the relationship, that's just not gonna fly. So your needs need to be found again, and you need to honor yourself. That's the biggest push of this eclipse. And if we look at the ruler, Venus, now she's going through some interesting aspects. First of all, she's in Pisces at 16 degrees. And as I just mentioned, Pisces is the higher expression, the higher octave of Venus, of love. Because it brings in the divinity. It brings in the highest level of perspective, right? It goes beyond this earthly life and understands that we are connected on a soul level, that there are soul contracts. Maybe with this lunar eclipse, some of these soul contracts are ending. So Venus, a planet of women the women in our lives, the feminine aspect within us, such as receiving or creating art, beauty. It's also about, well, obviously love and relationships, but also value and worth, meaning money, but also self-love, self-esteem. So in Pisces, the ruling planet of Libra is at home. She is in fantasy land, dreaming away and enjoying the magic side of all there is. And Venus is flying high in altitude and with the head in the clouds, right? But this is a very creative ground to tap into very high intuition. Get in touch with your soul self to bring that to the table. And it is sextiling Jupiter in Taurus, making everything that Venus is in bigger. And it means some overindulgence could occur around this eclipse. So, you know, try not to comfort yourself with food or other ways of addictions or numbing activities. Watch your, you know, alcohol intake or any other substances. This is not to escape reality because it's horrible, or, you know, this is about going beyond your reality to create the life of your dreams, to imagine yourself creating that fantasy life in your head, in your heart, feeling into those, you know, imaginations, those visions you have about anything, loving relationships, abundance, money, any, as I said, beauty or worthwhile thing in your life. That could all be made bigger. That could all, this could bring more affluence into your life. So we're working with that, you know, creating what we imagine. And this sextile is also part of a yod. So the yod, which is the finger of God, a divine element in the chart, is pointing to the South Node. And the South Node, I've been speaking to you for a while now. So that's all the lower expressions of Libra that we're moving away from. The whole introduction in this video is about that, the South Node of Libra, because that's similar to what the moon in Libra is going through, right? So there is a divine point to that South Node. There's a divine point to leaving it behind, to getting rid of negative patterns in our relationships, of how we are, you know, diminishing ourselves and our needs. All of that needs to be cut out. There's a divine purpose, says this yod. And even though it might feel very uncomfortable and awkward to get there, there is a support from its ruling planet Venus. And Jupiter can be seen as the protector, the divine guide, the blesser, the bringer of fortune as well. So if we look at it from that side, this is positive. They're working together to help us imagine and create better, healthier, more fulfilling, more passionate relationships. more enjoyable and pleasurable relationships. But this yacht is slightly being complicated by two factors. First of all, something very important because it affects the ruler of this lunation, Venus. Saturn is very close to Venus. Saturn is at 12 degrees. Venus is at 16 degrees of Pisces. This is sort of tampering a bit the Venus energy, right? She's flying high, she's fantasizing out of this reality, sometimes maybe a bit into illusions, and therefore can, you know, be deceived and all that, right? Thanks to Saturn, that's not going to happen, because Saturn is going to sober her up, or us. It's going to say, okay, that's enough now. Let's wake up to the reality. Let's, you know, blow some bubbles up, bring down the veil around untruths, illusions, deceptions. Let's see through that curtain and see what's actually going on. So thankfully, Saturn is here. It brings more reality, brings more, in a way, truth. And to me, Saturn and Capricorn that it rules is also very much about integrity, also authenticity, and self-respect, which is something Venus needs, and something that needs to be translated into the South Node in Libra, meaning also the Moon in Libra. So, how do you stand more firmly in your needs? How do you not diminish yourself? How do you not overgive? Be overly kind? How do you not over accommodate other people? Well, that's through having a solid self-esteem, by loving yourself first. That's the whole story here. That's the purpose. You need to stand strongly in your own self-love. And the Saturn is just bringing the sobering but also essential reality that you need to respect yourself. You need to be you need to have integrity over your needs, over who you are, over your wants, your goals, and bring it even into the imagination, which is so rich, which is so, easy for Venus. And I guess maybe Saturn is also like, be careful what you wish for, because what you imagine you can create. So you better build a vision that's actually what you want as well. So normally, people don't like Saturn, but I think here it's great that they are together, because that is true balance. That brings in the balance that Libra seeks. That will bring in more of that self-love and that seriousness, the discipline to actually be and do all of that. To go deeply into the self and heal deep programs that have been holding you away from self-love, self-respect, and all that. So on the other side of that yacht, in that sextile to Jupiter, which is bringing in the expansion, making everything bigger, as I said, but also protection, fortune, blessings, potentially. Jupiter is here inching, officially in astrology terms, conjunct Uranus. But the actual conjunction is going to take place April 20th. So we're a month away during this eclipse from that, which is a big cosmic occurrence of this year. That could shake up our financial world, but also bring in great fortune and blessings, definitely materialistically, and also to relationships and even to our senses. So our reality might really shift around April 20th. But here in this eclipse, Jupiter and Uranus are being closer and closer together. Jupiter's at 15 degrees of Taurus, Uranus at 20. That's 5 degrees. That's what we start to call in conjunction. So that's also part of this yod. And now Uranus brings in the uniqueness, brings in that authenticity, right? Brings in the weirdness, the oddness, and being really authentic about your needs, about what you value, and to stay so firm in that you create it, that it becomes your new perspective, your new reality. Also, Eros is near Uranus, so there's a great desire, and again, all of this is pointing to relationships, pleasure, sexuality, deep, deep, deep emotional connections. This is where we build relationships, romance, but with more solidity, with more authenticity, and with more love, respect, and truth for yourself. So it starts with self-prioritization, or others, or else none of that other things we desire works. Interestingly, this yod is being intersected by, of course, the north node being opposite the south node, and who's having a conjunction with Chiron. So this is about showing us that we are deeply healing our insecurities, issues around our identity, issues around putting ourselves first. This is where we break free, which is very Uranus as well, and be more ourselves, more unafraid, more unapologetic, more fierce. And this is where we can finally lead our own life with self-prioritization, which is the key here. So we need to be rebellistic in our sense of self, says Uranus, says Pluto. We are also healing our body image, by the way, with that North Node Chiron issue conjunction. We are pushed to be more devoted to ourselves, to our needs, to our dreams, to our desires. And this is, even though it's a lunar eclipse where things end, seems that there's also fruitfulness, fertility with this yod. So I think probably what the universe is saying, which is of course always the case, that every ending is a beginning. So there's no hopelessness here. Even though when something ends in your life and, your ego might not want it to end, but this is divine intervention. An eclipse is always highly purposeful. This is where your soul takes over and you're being redirected into truth, into honesty, into authenticity. So it's about being more free and unique, and also quite forward thinking and forward in our behavior. No more tradition, no conservative, especially conservative roles in relationships, especially these old set of ideas about the masculine and the feminine. All of that is being reworked, is being transformed. Now, I guess in the background, I would say that we are in pre-shadow phase of the Mercury retrograde. So April 1st, which is no prank, it's not April Fool's joke. Really, this year, the first Mercury retrograde of this year basically starts April 1st in Aries. So it's now in its pre-shadow, meaning that Mercury is seemingly moving slower to us. And it means that all of the Mercurian energies are slower, less efficient, meaning how we communicate is less understood. We might make communication errors. We might send out messages we didn't want to send. We might, experience electronical difficulties with that. So anything about communication, talking, writing, social media, emails, SMSing, texting, all of that, you ought to become more careful around this time. Errors might occur, mistakes might be made more easily. And also, it's not that great to buy new electronic devices or sign contracts, or at least be very meticulous about details, because they're easily overlooked around this time. And also, Mercury is in close contact to Chiron and the North Node and Eris. So we might also receive some news or information or learn things which might not be very pleasant, maybe, but it will be about moving and shaking the status quo. Might maybe also bring some understanding to what is going on into your healing process as well. But it's fated, it's near the North Node, so it's meant to be, it will be of greatest purpose eventually, even though if it's not great news, if we do not find it that way. But it's divinely guided. So what is interesting, I should add, about this yod in this lunation is that it's going, as I said, we are in an eclipse season, right? We are in between. Eclipses come in pairs. So this is the first, but then 2 weeks later, April 8th, we have another one. And literally, just like Libra is about pairing up and having a relationship, right? The pattern of these two eclipses also come in pairs. So we have a yod here involving the ruler of this lunation, the ruler of Libra being Venus, right? This same yod is continuing in 2 weeks later with the solar eclipse in Aries. But this time, Mars is going to take over that position of Venus. And Mars is the ruler of Aries, which is the next eclipse. So pretty wild synchronicities here. And it all shows, again, the theme of relationships, the theme of the masculine and the feminine being reworked, the theme of authenticity, equalness, and profoundly helping us to quantum leap into a different, higher vibrational reality where we just have very different futuristic, forward ideas and experiences about relationships, love, the masculine, the feminine, the man, the woman, and all of that is being reworked. So it's part, I really feel, about discovering who you are. That will be the change. That will be the real love. From there, we build a new reality, which has not been the case until now, because I don't know if you've looked around, but most people do not actually value and care for themselves in a respectful, loving way. Not enough. And that's why we see a lot of problems in the world, because everything is a reflection, because we're all connected, right? So it starts with you. You are the change. And whatever this Libra eclipse might eclipse in or out, trust it. Lean back. This is where the cosmos takes over. May the changes induce more love, more romance, more harmony, and true balance. So happy lunar eclipse in Libra, and I'll see you in the next eclipse, which is in Aries, and that starts a whole new cycle. Take care.